You're tuned into 9 to 5 Work Rebels with your host, Ebony Gale. This podcast is sponsored by the PRCA's Race, Ethnicity and Equity Board. Visit prca.org.uk/REEB to find out more.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gems in Comms series special brought to you by 9 to 5 Work Rebels. I am your host, Ebony Gale, and today I'm really pleased to be speaking with Nicola Millington, who is the founder of FP Comms, which is an award-winning boutique PR agency working with entrepreneurs and business owners. Welcome, Nicola.
Thank you, Ebony. I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you. So essentially, just to give you a bit of a background about what this podcast is all about, essentially we are spotlighting, people of colour that are working in the UK PR and comms industry, and essentially, giving you your flowers for sort of covering, your great career for yourself within the industry. So kudos to you. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Ebony, for creating a platform like this, right? Because we need them. We need voices like yours that will help elevate voices like mine. So thank you. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. So let's get straight into it, because this is our series special, which features on 9 to 5 Work Rebels podcast. And I really want you to start off by telling the audience, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I run FP Comms, like Ebony said, and part of FP Comms also there's a platform called Marketing Love Digital and the Fire PR Club. So all of them really, in one way or the other, focus on public relations, either it's learning it or us executing it for business owners. The premise behind the agency and what we do is really to support what we call ethical businesses. To give you a little bit of a backstory, if you want, is the fact of one day I actually was in church and I was working for an agency. I was working for a company and I was working in the PR department. And I literally just had this thought that my boss can wake up tomorrow morning and close the company down. And then where does that leave me?
Yeah.
And I really thought, like, there are many people like me out here who want to grow really, really good businesses, but don't have like the budget to do PR or don't even understand what PR actually is. And so what I wanted to create was a space where people can, first of all, understand, and I'm going to be totally honest, people that were Black, African and Caribbean were kind of like my primary thought process. But then it's anybody actually that's just got a heart for humanity.
Yeah.
In one way or the other. So any demographic, any race, any gender, any sexual orientation, but who's got a real heart for humanity. And sometimes those businesses are the hardest ones to build. Absolutely. And so it was with that, I wanted to create an agency that was accessible for them to begin the process of learning PR, but also the process of becoming accustomed to how to work with a PR agency. And so we created FP Comms first of all. And then after we created FP Comms, we then started to look at COVID came and we started looking at training people who wanted to understand PR.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate your breakdown there. And I think that's really important in terms of like working with people who are about the humanity side of it. I think that's really nice. And like you say, actually, because those sort of companies usually don't have the biggest resource all the time, it's harder to get the messages out there. So they're a really core niche, but a really important one as well, actually, very important.
Thank you.
Interesting. And a good point also where you mentioned, if your boss closes down the business, where do you stand? Like, it's a very thoughtful process there you went through. So have you always wanted to work in comms?
I would say that wasn't my initial, like PR wasn't my initial place, but communication always was.
Right.
So I wanted to actually, a little secret, Ebony, I actually wanted to be a film producer, right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I actually wanted, and I started going down that road of being a film producer. And I just heard too many stories, like really horror stories about film companies, like the casting couch and stuff like that. So as a young person growing up, I was just like, I don't know if this is the industry for me. But then as it happened, I was working for a film company and I became pregnant with my first son. I've got 2 young men. And I ended up in the PR department. And a lot of the skills that I learned in my degree and just natural aptitude with my marketing and PR, film work, it translates over. And so I just started to work in the marketing department because it was an office job. First of all, because when I was starting out in the film world, I was a runner, which starts right at the very beginning. So they were like, "Oh, we like you. You can stay for the company, but we need to find you an office job because, HR and all that kind of good stuff." And so that's what happened. The marketing director left for that company, and I became like the assistant to the new marketing manager, new marketing director. But I've always been in comms in one way or the other. So yeah, it's not necessarily PR, but definitely in comms in one way or the other.
Itself. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it makes sense when you explain it that way as well. Absolutely. Really interesting. Yeah. And when you talk about film production, you can still look at that, because I mean, look at Shonda Rhimes. She was a PR girly, and look at her now. So I think that's really impressive. And so yeah, that's great. And even me, I've got like a little penchant for that kind of area. I think I could do production or something. Okay, interesting. So what attracted you to the industry in itself? So like you said, you kind of fell into it by the sounds of it. Like you wanted to do comms, but was it something coming out of university? You were like, okay, I know film is one, but comms is something, or was it just like you said, you just kind of fell in there?
So I really would say that there was two things that happened. One is I knew I wanted to run my own business.
Right.
So that was the first thing that I was always looking for, an avenue to start my own business, whether it was my own production company or something else. And then the second one was also, I felt like with PR, I really had an ability to support growth of incubators, small and businesses that had big ambitions. I felt like I really could make a massive difference to those, because I feel like there's a lot of really small incubated companies that have got great ideas, don't understand PR, and just need someone to believe in them long enough to them to get through the threshold to be able to invest in PR. Yeah. So rather than closing those businesses down, if they've got someone that champions them and is cheering them on and really helping them to communicate, they will be seen by the right voices and the right people to amplify and then take them over. And it's happening in real life. Like, I can give you examples of real terms that today, this year, 2023, it is happening in real terms. So I'm like, okay, yes, that was a driving force, and it makes sense now.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I can see your passion, So yeah, I get it. I completely get that. Okay, so getting a little bit more into your sort of lived experience in the industry. So, I feel like sharing stories is something that's really important. So one of the things that I talk about is, one of the questions that I always ask everyone really is, when did you become aware of your ethnicity? So I always talk about my experience, essentially, knowing that you're born as a young Black girl, which is fine. But personally, my major experience of being like, kind of like a bit sharp shock was when I was going secondary school as an 11-year-old, going secondary school, and then finding out about Chelsea Smilers and that they wanted to just target, Black and brown people. And I was on a route that headed towards territories that were, known to be a bit weird and a bit, racist, essentially, right? So as an 11-year-old going off to school, I was a bit like, whoa, this is a bit of a, startling moment. So yeah, that was mine. What about yourself? Was there any kind of particular point?
So yeah, I think mine was just a little bit before I started secondary school. So let me just tell you how I got to the point you're talking about, is that I actually was born in the UK,
right,
but went and lived in South America for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So for a large part of my younger years, it wasn't a thing, because by the time we went and lived in Guyana, that's where my family's from.
Right.
By the time I went to live there, I was still quite young, and I was within the network or the bosom of a community, right? Mm. Which was my aunts, my uncles, my mum, my dad, brothers, sisters, that kind of thing. The time when that really hit me was, the first one was actually when I landed back in the UK. And there was just this kind of like, I felt this air of, I couldn't explain it, of you're not welcome.
Okay.
And I was I don't know what it was. It was just a feeling I had. I was 14 at the time. And I was just like, this is weird.
Yeah.
And then what then happened is I went to school. and went to school to start my schooling. And I remember this young, he was actually a famous footballer. He became a famous footballer. He was in my class. I won't name him.
Mm.
And he used my name. So my name's Nicola.
Mm-hmm.
Nicola, yes, Ebony. And he used, yes, Ebony.
Really now?
For real.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
He put it all in there. And I was just like, so shocked.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be in the school in the first place now, because I didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And then second of all, you got this kind of like
blatant racism.
Blatant. And it was, and you know, everybody in class laughed and they thought it was funny because it was a mockery of, like, not a mockery, but it was just like a turn of my name or whatever the case would be. I had an accent. And so therefore, and I'm at 5'2". So I was little, I wanted to hide away. I didn't want to be here. And it was just a lot. But the other end of me, though, is that I'm very feisty.
Yeah.
But my feistiness doesn't come in like physical attacks. I will come back for you one way or the other. And I wrote a letter to the headmaster. And I got him suspended.
Good. Good for you, though. As a little 14-year-old, well done to you.
Well, I had the help of my mum.
Of course, but still, you know, well done to take initiative and to do something about it. Like, you know,
I was very, very feisty.
Yeah, very good feisty. For you. That's so important. You know, it's a actual good thing to be feisty when it comes to things like this. Do you know what I mean? So, wow, your intro was not particularly nice at all. No, not at all. And offline, we're going to find out who that footballer is. Okay. But yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And sorry that happened to you. What area was your school in?
I'm in East, so it was in Seven Kings.
Okay. Wow. Well, yeah, I'm sorry you had that. So going back again into some kind of the ethnicity around our career developments, have you felt like your race or ethnicity has held you back within your career?
I'm going to say for me, no. And I think no, because I was raised dual culturally, like really lived experience in Guyana and really lived experience in the UK. And so what I found was I had an determination and an endurance, rightly or wrongly, because I don't know necessarily it was a right thing to have in the way that I had it, but I just was able to dig so deep into myself. And because I was raised by a matriarch, by a wealth of very strong women, and I saw examples of very strong men in my family. My mum is one of 9. My dad is one of 5. So because I had that around me and we were very close and very tight-knit as a family, I just feel like I just went through most of my life ignoring it or oblivious or not making it at all the thing. There were times they were blatantly, like that situation, like when I was working in that film company actually, and my boss said something, and you know, there were times they were definitely blatant remarks and behaviors.
Yeah.
But I would say that my observation of how it held me back was one that I just didn't tune into. I either didn't have the eyes to, I didn't care to, I didn't want to, whatever it was, but it was never my thing that I had to feel like I had to face.
Okay.
In real terms.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Thank you for that. And I suppose my next question was more about, have you experienced or witnessed racism in the workplace?
Yeah.
And if so, how was it handled?
So how was it handled? And this was in the film company. And what happened, I'll share the story, and hopefully the MD will see it, and because he's still alive. So I'll hear this. So what happened was we work in a film company, and a thief had come into the building and stole someone's bags, yada yada yada. So there were security cameras around the building.
Right.
And I was having lunch. I remember this so clear. I was having lunch with my boss, but colleague, if you want. and 3 other people who were working in the tech space of the room. And the MD came in and he said, okay, let's see if there's any footage. So it was a black guy that came in and was the culprit, a black male.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before, I'm 5'2", I'm little. This person was tall.
Right.
And he was obviously a male.
Yeah.
Obviously. And the boss comes in and he turns around, he says, yeah, let's have a look at this because we don't want to mistake. And I was like one of a handful of black people working for the company, normal stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't want to, let's look at this and see if we can identify them because we don't want anyone to mistaken him for Nicola.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Blatant racism. That is not okay. To mistake a big grown man for a petite black woman. Yeah, we're going to make that mistake somehow. What a ridiculous point to make.
Listen. So again, like always, I get really, really shocked at these moments. I do. I freeze at these moments 9 times out of 10. I'm a delayed responder.
Yeah, I get it.
But the funny thing was that the building was a square building, effectively. So there's a central piece, and then all the offices were in a square. And it wasn't a massive building. By the time I left the room, I don't know how someone in the other offices right down the front had found out. And they came running around the corridor like, we should get him fired. And I was just like, all right, something. And this is a proper white woman, like,
yeah, she's like, she's got the thing. Yeah, she's like, I don't want to hear about none of this. This is bang out of order. I like it.
Yeah, and I can definitely say I wasn't up for that fight. I was not interested in that fight, rightly or wrongly. I mean, I got little victories at the end because, I got promoted above him. He had to come to me to sign off his budgets and things like that eventually happened.
Yeah.
So, things like that kind of work, but I never dealt with it directly. So I think that was the main one that I always remember when I have this question asked.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting example. Wow. Definitely straightforward racism. Doesn't sound like it was handled greatly at the time, but
it wasn't handled at all. Like, first of all, I didn't raise it. Like, so literally I came out the room and I didn't raise it, and no one else raised it apart from this woman who her name's Alison. Yeah, I'll say her name. Her name's Alison. She'll know who she is. Yeah. Her name's Alison, and she was just not having none of it.
Go Alison.
None of it. But yeah, I didn't want to pursue it. I was not interested in that at that time. That was I didn't have the courage to do that at the time.
Yeah, or capacity, because sometimes you do feel like you don't, you pick your battles, don't you, sometimes as you go through the workplace. So, okay, thank you for sharing that. And then, as you do mention that, was there ever a time when you wished you had spoken up about something, or maybe there's a time when you had spoken up or you did self-advocate on a separate occasion, maybe?
Yeah, I've been known to do that, but I'm not Ebony, look, I'm not a very good responder under pressure. So I remember working for another company, a separate company, and, again, they wanted to do this kind of like, you're a woman. They didn't say black, but you're a woman, you're going to get paid less than these new people that are coming in. And yeah, Ebony, it was like that. And I literally just said, not on my watch. And guy turned around and said, I was doing the mediating, he's like, you're too young to understand what's going on.
Wow.
And I said, I took out the contract and I said, the words are clear for me to read and understand, and I'm telling you, I'm not signing this contract. Period.
Love it.
And then a few weeks later, I actually decided that I was looking to go back into the film world, because it was outside the film world, go back in to see if I can get my foot into the film world. And he came and he said, if you don't sign it, you'll be sacked. And I said, you don't have to fire me because I've resigned. And I dealt with it that way. But they couldn't have sacked me anyway. I would have taken, they couldn't have sacked me. The contract was very clear. They were trying to 2P us into another contract, which was less. And I was like, no, we're not doing that.
Well, good for you for standing up for yourself on that and not being bullied, you know,
Yeah.
how the guy was clearly trying to do by telling you, you know, of why I should get fired. Well done to you. Well done to you. Gosh, see some of these places, you just think, what is wrong with you people? Just treat people decently. Is it that hard? Just be decent human beings. It is something else.
I think, Ebony, I would just say that, you know, I think if you look at what's going on with like BBC now, and
yeah,
habits and behaviors have been allowed to continue. What I always turn around, regardless of what society, what environment, what culture, what world you live in, basic humanity and basic respect never changes.
Yeah.
And I think if you always operate on that, no law or no indoctrination should ever counteract that. So any of our behaviors that are abusive to another person is just bad behavior. It's just, and it should be called, it should be identified as bad behavior. You know, it's rude.
It is. It really is. It really is. And it's clearly an issue that we, like you said, it's entrenched in a lot of these companies and organizations that have been around for donkey's years. It's entrenched.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and and I do believe in that saying, sort of like the one bad apple can, you know, spoil a bunch, and it happens quite a lot. So interesting. I want to kind of switch it up and speak about code switching. And do you feel like we can ever live with our authentic voices in the workplace, or will we be forever kind of code switching?
Ooh, so I think you have to have courage not to have to code switch in society. You really do. But I take courage from a woman called Tabitha Brown. Okay. I don't know if you've ever seen her on YouTube and stuff like that. She's a YouTuber, influencer, actress in the US.
Okay.
And she talks about, she speaks about how she used to, you know, she had a very, I think, Southern accent, and she used to hide it, and she used to want to hide her hair and all that, you know, when she's in a room. But the reason I take courage from her is because when you see the trajectory of her growth, when she really started, and life aligns itself, and she really walked into life's alignment with herself to be able to be fully present.
Yeah.
You saw the trajectory of her growth. Right. And I just like, you know what? I know sometimes it can be hard and challenging and difficult, but I feel like we are better served when we are fully authentically in ourselves. So every day I do a little bit of checking to say, am I fully present? I try my best. I fail miserably many times, but I do consciously try to be fully present. And I started actually with my children. I started making sure that I allocated time to be fully present with them. So it allowed me the space to really connect with who I was in those moments. And so then when I'm outside of those moments in corporate rooms, I can feel the difference between when I'm there and when I'm not.
Yeah.
And then it allows me in those moments to be there. So right now, you and I am fully here, right? Yeah. I'm enjoying the experience. I'm aware of it. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just fully here. Like, if you like me, you will like me. If you don't like me, at least you will not be liking me. You're not liking my representative. And that is what I've really working hard to, whether it's something you can do or not as general. I think it takes courage to do. I really do. Because we've got bills to pay, we've got lives to live, and we've got a society that's created us to be the other or something else.
Yeah, interesting indeed. Thank you very much for that. Now, going back to, of course, we're staying on the industry. So one of the questions I always like to ask is, when did you become aware of the color bias in PR and comms specifically?
Oh, that's a difficult one for me, because PR is challenging anyway. Like, there's a survey that says PR is something like the third toughest job in the world or something like that, like most stressful job in the world.
Stressful job.
Yeah, most stressful job in the world. And I feel like color bias is just one of many stresses that I have to deal with. Like, and sometimes honestly, it feels like the least of the problems I've got.
Okay.
Like,
Well,
because it just is one on top of the other on top of the other. So it's everything from getting just people to respect the craft. It's tough enough.
Yeah.
Getting people to value it is so tough. I guess the difference may be male female rather than racial, I would say. I will find that people will listen to men more than, yeah, I'm going to say it's more gender rather than racial has been my specific angst in my PR space.
In your career.
Yeah, in my PR space. I'm going to say that because, yeah, I think
it's interesting. I do feel like some clients respond more well to males, but also I've had instances where you've got clients in a room with an agency and you've got a black person who's leading, but they're not going to that black person, they're turning to the white person, assuming that they're the person leading. So I suppose I was more alluding to that kind of thing, the colour bias, as well as the fact of the industry being 92% white. And like that kind of thing, I suppose I was kind of thinking of. But I understand your gender point too, because I feel like actually men usually command more respect. And I've seen that even when you're interacting with clients, it's been really interesting when you see a male person say something, or says almost a similar same thing that you said, but it somehow it lands more because it's come from male perspective. So yeah.
I think, can I just say your point about in the room and people speaking over, I think maybe if you'd asked me this question 5 years ago, my response may have been a little bit different, right? But now, this is how I respond in my series. They want to talk to the man, the woman, the white person, whatever the case may be. And they speak to them, and the white person that's there, if they don't have a sense about them and don't know how to get themselves together, they won't let them know. They will let them know that I'm the boss. So cut that out, right? So that's one thing. So most people I've got around me have got their sense, so they won't do that. But when that was in my process, actually, and people would come along and be like talking to the assistant of the assistant of the assistant, right? What would then happen is when the work needs to be done, it's me they're coming to, right? Because I'm the one they need to come to. Ebony, releases can sit on a desk for weeks, you know.
I know what you mean. You're like, well, if you're getting all the glory, then go do the work. I get it. I get it.
Also, when the client comes and they're like, oh, yes, you know, blah, 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 blah. We were at the meeting and you agreed. No, I didn't agree anything. You spoke to Tom. You spoke to Lisa. You speak to them. Don't speak to me. I don't.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. It's a good way. It's a good point, actually. Yeah, absolutely. That's so funny. But okay, cool.
This podcast is sponsored by the PRCA's Race, Ethnicity and Equity Board. Visit prca.org.uk/REEB to find out more.
Right, so I wanted to touch on allyship, right? So what are your thoughts on allyship and what does it mean for you to you? It sounded like you had an ally, you know, with the recent example you gave me. Is it Alison? You said her name as well. Yeah, she sounded like she's definitely kind of your ally. But what are your thoughts? What does it mean to you? What's a good example of allyship?
I think it depends on so many different factors of what I go from a very much a heart-centric movement. So if I don't bond with you, it doesn't really matter what race you are, I'm not bonding with you. That's how I just naturally navigate this world, rightly or wrongly. Again, it's just my personal way of navigating. And I think sometimes it's a protectionist mechanism. It's kind of like, I'm not vibing. I don't want to deal with the drama. Keep it away. However, thank you. However, and I do need the validation.
That's good. I will say I get that because I'm an energy person. So if the energy isn't there, then it's fine. We can be best buddies. But I'm definitely an energy person. So I get it. Absolutely.
But I would say that's I believe fundamentally that, again, like I said about code switching, about the courage to do that. You need to have the courage to be even an ally and the courage to accept and trust an ally. And my trust factor is little to none, right? With with where that's concerned. I do have a broad spectrum of friends of different nationalities that I would say that are close, but it's taken time. Like I need a long time. I'm talking 10 years plus to be able to say that you are an ally.
Yeah.
So it has to have historical track for me to say that I trust you. And it has to have historical track because people will still be people at the end of the day. It doesn't mean that they're perfect. But what I need is evidence that you have shown and demonstrated a pattern behavior that I can rely upon.
Yeah.
I need to be able to rely upon that when the,
stuff hits the fan, that, you've got behind you, right?
Exactly. And I need to be able to rely on that, or I'm just going to do it by myself. And it can be a lonely journey. So I do understand the need for even me to be able to develop trust with people quicker and believe in that. But my own mode is I don't trust that quickly. So allyship, I believe, has its place. But corporate allyship, for instance, when I see, and this is why, again, PR has been so important to me, is I need to see track record of PR, not spin. I need to see that for me to be even able to trust that I can trust that when I'm putting out your releases, when I'm representing you, that, even if you do screw up, I can defend you with integrity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not just because you said, oh, no. I need to see that. I need to do the research and see that track there.
Yeah.
And so, that's where allyship sits for me. You have to demonstrate, and you have to demonstrate it hard. It cannot be what my mentor actually calls the race paradox. You cannot just put up the black square and I think of you as a friend. Oh, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not doing that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. So thanks again for sharing that. So moving into kind of what inspires you. Tell me, what motivates you and inspires you to keep going?
Money. But I said that, and I'm like, I could caveat, money's not the most important thing. Let me tell you something, Ebony. I'll be totally truth. In 2023, anyone that says that money is not important is fooling themselves, because my gas bill keeps going up.
Yeah.
And they are not taking goodwill. And they're not taking, I'm a nice human being. They're not taking that. And the government is not helping them to take that from me either. They are helping them to take my money. So
quite right. So I don't blame you on that one. I think money is just essential to live comfortably, for your existence. Unfortunately, if we live in a place where there was no money needed and we can just live the way we want to live, it'd be completely different.
I will be all for that. I'll be all for that. But truthfully, and putting that aside, truthfully, I feel like it's my calling. Like, I do what I do because I just feel like I don't there's many a times that I've wanted to stop.
Okay.
And it just pulls me back in.
Right.
And it just draws me in. And I feel like there's a saying I heard from someone, fear pushes you until your blessing pulls you. And I feel that that's how it is for me. It's kind of like I'm building. And then when I'm ready to stop, because I'm just like, I'm over it now and it's too stressful, it pulls me in. Something pulls me in. Yeah, it really does. And so, I would say that is like my motivation. It's just a natural pulling to make a difference in the world, to do the best I can and just enjoy the process as well.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. So what would you say you found sort of the most challenging so far on your journey?
Lack of sleep. Demanding clients.
Oh yeah.
All right, if I'm totally honest, and I saw Tamika Mallory say this the other day on another podcast, sometimes serving our community can feel hard.
Yeah. Yes. I know what you mean. I know, particularly when it comes to PR and the understanding of it and what you're going to get on your return on investment, and that kind of understanding of the impact that PR and communications can have on your career or your business doesn't always go through. Yeah, correlate.
No.
Yeah.
I find that the most challenging, and why I find it the most challenging, especially like, and I know you've interviewed Cam from
Black Comms Network,
and there's many other women in the PR space, which I can tell you, I personally, as a woman, as a Black woman, I'm so proud of. Just so proud of us, like everything, because we bring something that's so different. And I'm not saying we're homogenous at all, but we bring a voice that's first of all not been heard.
Yes.
We bring also an awareness and an intuition. You talk about women's intuition. Black women's intuition is second to none.
Absolutely agree.
Second to none. And we bring that to this space. We bring our protectionism to this space for so many people that don't deserve it.
Yeah.
We bring that to this space. And we bring so much flair and intelligence and beauty and finesse and class. It's just, and that is why I feel upset, because I believe society knows it exists, and they still, and our own community still try to devalue it, still try to ignore it, still try. And that's what frustrates me the highest.
Yeah.
The global kind of like disrespect. I may be talking out of turn.
No, you're quite right. I feel you on that, because it is a global disrespect, but yet everything that we do is also borrowed from and
stolen and used and
always
copy. And that is what hurts the solar plex. But that's when I then say, sometimes fear pushes you to the passion pulls you. My love for my people and the love for humanity is far stronger than my fear for the disrespect and the anger for the disrespect. My love for, if I didn't do this, it could have been just that next second, I could have made that change.
Yeah.
That's what pulls me. That's what keeps me going. But the other side of it is what breaks my heart.
I hear you. No, I appreciate your honesty. I really do. I appreciate your honesty. So thank you for that. Oh. Okay. So I'm going to move you a little bit into putting your hat on as an employee when you wasn't an employee, and you can still keep your hat on as an obviously business owner. But thinking about when you came into the industry, into PR comms, you know, and think about how things are now post George Floyd and the Black Squares, you know, what do you want from your employer? What do you think makes a good working environment?
Okay, so that one is really easy for me. As a company, we signed up to the living wage mandate, and I firmly believe, now many people do disagree with me, but I firmly believe that everyone should be paid at least 3 times above the living wage.
Yeah.
And the reason I believe that is because creativity is what keeps a society moving forward. Yeah. Science, tech, and all those things are fine, but creativity is what keeps people sane. And with the mental health being a crucial issue at the moment, it's always been, but really now identified, we are dumbing down creativity for the sake of productivity. And I think it's the wrong way around.
Yeah.
So living wage gives people this freedom to be more creative. Mm-hmm. But also, I think companies really should look at the flexible working hour. Yeah. We need to reduce our time. And if we looked at when COVID happened, I know loads of people struggle, but a lot more people also thrive.
Absolutely.
Because we were on a wheel that was never ending. Yeah. And people were struggling. They were burning out. They were depressed. You know, it was ridiculous. And now we're finding more holistic ways to really survive. Yeah. So as an employee, I want living wage across the board. I would recommend most companies go for a living wage mandate. Mm-hmm. That's my thing. I talk about equity, equality all the time on LinkedIn. Equity, equality. I want to see equity, equality across the board. And you can define it how you want. You can restructure your 100-year-old company, but get to that place as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's what I want to see.
I agree with you. And when you talk about that, it's really interesting, because when you look at our wages compared to overseas, it's really terrible. I mean, particularly like in America, It's interesting when they come over here, if you watch them the TikToks, and they're always like, oh my God, the wages here are so low. It's just like, yeah, because it really is, but you're right. They need to be setting a precedent for that, and setting it so that you are putting much more money into creatives. Creative, unfortunately always seems to get the brunt of it, and it's all science, but you need creativity, as you explained. You need both. Okay. So looking at, you mentioned equity, so we're moving right into the right question here, which is, what does DEI look like to you?
I'm going to be like,
be as honest as you like.
I think DEI is like the black square.
Okay.
For corporates, right?
Okay.
So I respect anybody that does DEI space. It happens to be, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, or if anyone knows the stats, but I think percentage-wise, it's a lot of Black women in that space.
Yeah.
Right? So that goes to a point about how we are being taken to solve problems.
Yeah.
But it's not being invested in.
Mm.
So it's always like, we need to do DEI. It's like Black History Month in the UK, and I don't know about the US. We're going to do some things about Black people, but we don't have a budget. Oh, we want to invest in these places, but we don't have a budget. Yeah. That means to me, it's just a symbol. It's not a reality of the process of what real change needs to be incorporated in your business.
Yeah.
So for me, my thoughts on DEI is, unless you're going to be really invested in the space through the mechanics of the DNA of the business, you might as well leave it with HR.
Yeah.
It really does not serve us to pretend, because the expectation of the benefactor of that against what is being delivered are incongruent with each other. So what's the point? The salary of that person could be better spent on buying ice cream during the summer months. Like, seriously.
So no, like you said, it's about making sure it's actually woven into the fabric of the organization. So I feel like that.
Absolutely.
And I feel like actually there needs to be more emphasis on equity. And I think that's quite an important part that people try to kind of smooth over. But I think equity is what we need to be looking at, so that people can be in the right places and being rewarded for that as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Across the board, across the board of what it's supposed, you need a budget. I remember times when marketing didn't have a budget. Can you imagine?
I know, it's insane, isn't it? It's insane. But I've worked with companies like that as well who don't really have much of a marketing budget, and you want everyone to know who you are. So it's like,
yeah, where does that come from? So I think the same about DI. Why would you think you're going to have equality or some kind of equitable equality within the company if you're not investing in it?
Yeah, you have to invest in it, and you also have to be very true about it. And I feel like actually you've got some organizations that are trying to make some change at the core, and I've seen some, and then you've got others that, to me, it's more optics. This is the optics, and this is what it looks like, and it's very much like you say, just like a cherry on the top, rather than getting into and making up the mixing of the cakes and the full ingredients. So no, I get it. Thank you. So moving into your proudest moment. So can you tell us about your proudest moment? It can be work or personal, and also what has been a particular career highlight for you?
Yeah, I'm proud. I've got quite a few of them proudest moments. We won our first award in 2023. I'm not a kind of like a labeled person, but it was nominated and we won it, and it was really nice.
Amazing.
For our PR services and integrity and all the things that I stand for. So that was really cool.
That's brilliant.
Starting my own agency, 16 years now in business. Amazing. That is, I've strived and continue to strive to keep that going. Most businesses fail within the first 5 years. Yep. And I am just like persevering, and I continue to persevere. So I'm really proud of that. But I think my proudest moment, to be totally honest with you, is seeing now my young men, my two sons, things that I didn't think they noticed, and see them really executing on in their lives through things that they've watched me do. Things like just how they approach people, how they one of my sons is a plumber, like how he deals with invoicing, how just little things, but you see the impact of how I've moved through the world. And by the way, I should caveat this because I heard another podcast. we're a two-parent family, right? We may be co-parenting, but the boy's got a father and a mother. So it's not just me, but I've seen my investment in how they are now responding to the world and behaving and moving through the world. I would say definitely, as now a mother of two young men, 16 and older, they really do make me proud. Really, really, really do. And seeing them also with their friends, and their friends are leaning into what they are doing, discipline, like how they carry themselves, how they operate through the world, you know, reading copious amounts, like reading and reading and reading. These are young Black boys, young Black men, reading and reading, and it just fills me with joy. It just really does make me happy.
Yeah,
so that's
lovely.
it.
I love that. That's lovely. I love that. Okay, great. So what are your thoughts on the industry and how it will evolve over the next few years? You know, we've got AI, there's DEI, which to me is, I feel like it's going to be coming down on the totem pole slightly. You know, particularly if you take a look at America and the fact that they've done away with affirmative action, which I thought was unbelievable. But yeah, what are your thoughts on how you feel like the industry will evolve over the next few years?
Well, DEI specifically, let me just address that one, Ebony, if you don't mind. If we look now over the next year, they're getting rid of all the DEI heads, like they're sacking them left, right, and center. So it'd be interesting to see, because you remember, I don't know if you will remember, like when like the green policy used to, carbon footprint used to be a big thing. Companies used to be, and then suddenly it's not a thing anymore. Like I feel like it's going to be another trend is going to come along. Will come along, unfortunately. AI, I'm not very technically savvy in that space in regards to following technical trends. But I just feel like I feel actually the juxtaposition, and especially with the growth of Black women in this space, I feel honestly with the juxtaposition of all this technology, we're going to see a trend of more. I'm just thinking this off the top of my head, but I feel we're going to see more of a trend of more impersonal connections being created, live events that are going to be maybe a bit more intimate. But definitely I feel like the human connection is, the technical is pushing us to be more human. And I find that Black women love a human environment. We do. We love social human environments as a whole. Again, not homogenous, but as a whole. And so I feel like over the next few years, that may be a trend, and other people will pick up on that because it will be financially viable for businesses. So technology will stay. And I think the more actually that technology also crashes, like your Facebook and TikTok's not allowed in certain countries. And I feel like ownership of our own and creating that ownership of our own and then creating human spaces are going to be the thing that will then eventually come out. What it will look like, I don't know. But I feel like that's where we're going to lean into more. This is convenient, but I can guarantee that when we meet in human life, we'll have this whole conversation and more again. And it will be something that will be even deeper and greater. And that's what we long for and yearn for.
Interesting indeed. Thank you so much on that one.
We can see if it happens.
We'll see what happens. Indeed, exactly. I think it is interesting with the whole AI situation because, you know, you've got ChatGPT. I don't know if you've tested that out, but it's really kind of cool. Actually, I've used it a few times. But with things like that, it's also kind of scary because actually you can just type in a few things and it creates the whole thing for you, whether it be a press release or a story. So,
have you ever tried Google Bard?
No, I will try that. I haven't tried that one yet. Is that good?
Yeah, Google Bard. So they're interesting because I did a test between Google Bard, ChatGPT, and Writer. And because Google owns all of the information, theirs is more in-depth than ChatGPT, but they do different things.
Okay.
So you can try both of them and merge together, and you can have some interesting outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to check that out. Absolutely. Because I do like testing out new stuff like that. So I will. Okay, cool. All right. So lessons I wanted you to share with us, what would you say are the key lessons that you've learned throughout your career?
Despite what people,
3, whatever you like.
no worries, I'll give a couple. Despite what people think, honesty is always the best policy.
Agree.
Because it will come back to bite you in the behind. And as I tell my clients all the time, you do not have crisis management budget.
Yeah. You know.
So, so get yourself together and, don't try to tell me what you think I want to hear, what people you think. Let's get to the truth in the best possible way for people to engage with you, and we will make it happen.
Yeah.
But I think my greatest lesson in life is that the truth of who you are is always the truth of who you are and what you're supposed to do has always been in you from birth. I think life beats it out of you, and your job is to find it again.
Yeah.
And really live from that position as much as possible. Coming back, you asked some really, really good questions, Ebony. And coming back to your point of code-switching on authenticity, that's what the journey is. Society says this is what you should be. You should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer. That's what parents do. Ambitions, goals, achievement, all those things, famous, rich, all those things. But the truth of who you are and what success really looks like was in you at birth. You had it as a child. It was brought out of you through the education system, through society. And then if you're lucky, it comes back to you and you work your way back to get to that point. And I think when you are on that journey, I'm on that journey for myself through life circumstances.
Yeah.
When you're on that journey, it's the sweetest journey ever. Hard, but it's really, really sweet.
Yeah, I
know. And I think
I get you. That's such a key point what you said about, going back to yourself, because I feel like that is so true. Like, I don't know if you've read the 4 Agreements. I'm reading that at the moment. Let me finish that. Really good book. And it does talk about, the fact that we come in to this world ourselves. At that point, we are ourselves. We're in touch with who we are. If you look at like a little 4-year-old, they are their true selves. Because, children, are not kind of the society hasn't beaten out or, tried to shape them and domesticate them, essentially. And, it happens to us in our journeys. And then you kind of turn into somebody else and you look back and think, well, actually, I need to get back to my real self. And, you go through a bit of a journey in life. And I feel like that's a good point that you've made there. So some 2 good lessons there. Is that anything else you wanted to add? Or those are 2 main ones?
Those are my 2 main ones. And we need more, we need more of Ebony out there in the world is what I say.
Well, thank you. So another question for you, which is, what advice would you give young people of color considering entering the industry?
Into the PR world.
Yeah, PR comms world, because, we cover the spectrum.
All right, so here's one. Get yourself a black book. Literally a black book, not a mobile phone. Black book. And just start building your contact database. Just start building your network. Just start building your relationships. And be really earnest about that job. And do not think short term, think long term. Yeah. I'm going to share a story. I shared it the other day with my club. I'm going to share it here as well because it was there. Years ago, when I first started out in PR, I don't know what I was doing, but I was trying to do some campaign. Just starting out, I'm just building my company. Wasn't clear on who my audience was. And I reached out to a film director. And as it happened, the film director, let's call him film director, was from the US. And I was reached out to him because I just wanted to do some interview or work. I can't remember what it was. And his office responded and they gave me his contact details. And the film director was in France.
Okay.
And at the time, I didn't have the budget to go from the UK to France, and it didn't happen. And I lost contact with this film director. The film director is Tyler Perry.
No way. No way. I was waiting for you to drop it. I was thinking, who is she talking about? He came in my head, but I thought, nah. Oh, wow.
Tyler Perry. And you know when I was sharing this with my group the other day when we were talking about certain lessons and we were going through certain stuff. But what was interesting was I wasn't ready for that connect. I wasn't in the headspace. I wasn't in the mental space. I didn't feel confident in myself.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I deserved it. There was lots of mental, emotional, physical, the whole imposter syndrome, the whole 9 yards of what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't nurture that.
Interesting though, isn't it? And then you look back at it like, oh my God.
And he was before he was fully talented. So he had some of his films already out, obviously, because that's how I knew about him.
Yeah, of course, because he was pioneering that space. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't fully appreciate what I had achieved in getting in contact with this guy who said, meet me in France.
Exactly. Amazing.
I'm in France. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you should still reach out to him and be like, hey, remember me?
Well, that's why we're putting it on this podcast. That's what even listen to this. Like, hey, I didn't know this.
Hi, Tyler.
I didn't know you.
No. Oh, cool.
No, but yeah,
so what to do. It's amazing. I'm so proud of him. From just as a black woman to another black man, and we see that the fact that he's now owner of BET. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, Tyler, the fact that he bought his own studios and that now amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. But that would be my key advice for young people coming through. And the reason I say get a physical black book, I know everyone's going, it's on my mobile, I can put it in the cloud. And if it's with you, it's with you. If you own it, you own it. If it's written down in your own handwriting, it's written down in your own handwriting. It may fade, rewrite it.
Yeah.
Put it down in your own handwriting, take a picture of it, do everything you can do to archive that and become and utilize that and nurture it. That would be my biggest advice to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a good point. Nurture it, definitely. Nurture those relationships as well. Okay, well, thank you for those pieces of advice. I think that's really helpful. Now, we're getting into our last segment here, our last few questions, which is about mindset, which is a subject that I really love to get into because I think it's so important. So how do you deal with the internal mind war that we all face, essentially?
With a lot of challenges and a lot of hard work. A few years ago when I was doing different things in life and restarting my life in new ways, I found the benefit of counselors and therapists and I feel they're really good. I've learned the beauty of a good walk, to decompress and to be able to give myself some thinking space. I call it letting the air out the balloon. When a balloon is really full of air, and then sometimes you just need it to just be a little bit softer to be able to move around. That's what I do. Sometimes I look at all my list of things to do, and this is my mindset is look at all the list of things. I look at the list. I'm like, which one is going to give me the quickest release of pressure as possible? I do believe in organic behavior. So doing things like cooking from scratch. Touching books. I love touching books.
Same.
Just getting organic things away from technical sometimes is really, really helpful. I would love to say that I drink enough water and I sleep well, but I don't. But I would love to be able to do that more. But those are the things like walking, doing organic things, touching books, reading, listening to music. And like I said, getting the pressure out of the balloon, so to speak, and just going down that list of things to do and picking the one that's going to give me the quickest amount of release, regardless of how hard it may be.
Yeah. Okay. That's nice of you to share. Thank you. And how do you manage self-limiting beliefs?
Can you explain what that is, actually?
So your self-limiting belief might be things that you put yourself in you put boundaries around your own limitations. So essentially, you might be, you can, sometimes someone might say, oh, Nicola, why don't you do this? And you'd be like, oh, no, I can't do that. That's a self-limiting belief because maybe you haven't tried it and maybe you can do it,
Yeah. Thank you for explaining that to me.
That's all right.
Because I don't like pretend like I know something when I don't.
Right.
How do I manage that kind of thing? I don't think I manage it well at all, to be fair.
You have your own business, you've kept going. So for example, look at when you set up your business. I'm sure there's at certain points you might have thought, I can't do this, but you push through. So you're managing to do it and you're keeping it going.
Yeah.
So you've got something, you might not be aware of it, but you've got something you're using.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, things like, so I don't know where it fits really then, I guess. It's because like things like that, like setting up my own business or anything that I push through is because I've just got this dogged determination that I refuse to fail. Yeah. And so my motto is, I rather tried and failed than never tried at all. Yeah. And that's how I live my life. But when it comes to things that I really have got I cannot do, I think it cripples me literally, and it takes me a long time to get out of it. I'm going to say how I manage it is through long process.
Right.
Long therapy, long thinking, long talking, over evaluating, just long. And then when I get to the point of I can't bear it anymore, that's when I will take action.
Right. Okay. So you have
Does that make sense?
You work through then. Yeah, but to me it sounds like you have a process, but you still push past it. Eventually you'll get to it. You'll try and tackle it. So that's good.
I love that. I love that.
That's good. That is good. That's good. Okay. All right. So looking back over your journey, would you do it all again?
Yes, with one caveat.
Okay. What's your caveat then?
My caveat is this, Ebony. I'm sharing all my business. So my caveat is this. Yeah. When I was a youngster, when I was about 17, oh my gosh, I'm aging myself. All right. When I was about 17, I used to work in a sports shop, a very, very famous sports shop in the UK.
Okay.
And Jordans came out. The first Jordans came out. And I didn't buy any. That's my one.
That's your one caveat. You're like, why did I not get my Jordans? Because you know how much that we work today. Do you know? And you worked in a trainer store. Yeah, I can understand you kick yourself about that a bit.
It was Jordans. All of them were coming through. The white ones, the black ones, the white and grey ones. They were all there.
You could be
in my hands.
My God. My gosh. And do you know how much money that is worth now? But no, I get it. That's all right. That's a minor caveat. That's not too bad. So otherwise, you're good. You're happy with your trajectory, you'd say, yeah?
Say that again.
So otherwise, would you say you're happy with your trajectory? You're kind of happy with how it's gone otherwise? Other than the Jordan faux pas, we know that's just like, how could you do that? Oh, is it good?
No, I would. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would. 99% would. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's good. That is really good to hear. And so there's my last two questions coming up, right? So this one makes me laugh, depending on what you come back with, right? So what's the best and worst advice you've been given?
The worst advice I've been given. Yeah, I'll end with the best.
Yeah.
The worst advice I've been given was to stay somewhere that I shouldn't have.
Okay.
I think you're looking for like a quote or something like that. I don't have one of those.
No,
I've got kind of like, all right, perfect. So, yeah, the word was to stay somewhere that I should have left a long time ago.
Okay.
The best advice I've been given was it was from my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And she said, don't trust my shadow. Now, me and my grandma were really, really close. Yeah. Very, very close. But what she meant when she said that to me, and I knew exactly what she meant, was the sun changes and so the shadow can go around, but I'm a constant.
Mm-hmm.
So trust in yourself.
Yourself, absolutely.
Trust in yourself. Believe in yourself.
Yes.
And that's the best advice, that whenever I have those self-limiting doubts, I guess, I really dig into, I'm like, actually, I can do this. I can trust myself.
That's really lovely. I absolutely love that one. I'm going to nick that one and add that too, because I feel like the grandmothers always come with some good quotes. Like there's two that I really love. One of them always said to me, Ebony, don't put your hat where your hand can't reach. Yeah. So, which I love. You know, that's more a metaphor for money and, you know what I mean, managing your finances, right? And then my other gran, she used to always say, worrying is like a rocking chair. Gives you something to do, but gets you nowhere.
Oh, wow. I'm going to nick that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice one.
I try and hold on to, because I'm like, they're so important, because it's worrying, you're damn right. You just send yourself in circles. And then, you know, again, don't put your hat where your hand can't reach. It's one that I always like, yeah, it's very true. So, but I appreciate you sharing yours, because that's really nice about, you know, don't trust the shadow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's so important. Trust yourself. That's so important. So yeah, I love that. Absolutely great. Thank you for that. And my last question for you is, do you have any rules that you've implemented to help you along your career journey? Like, for example, me, I used to always say, before, when I was in employment, before I decided to start my own business, I would always say, okay, if I didn't move up within that organization, I will move out and up. I'm not going to let anybody kind of stop my trajectory of where I want to go. You know, I just certain things, you know, trying to be true to myself and be authentic, you know, things that I would kind of try and keep along me as I go along my career, essentially.
Yeah, I do have one that I've learned to really live by recently. So it's my most common one. And it happened over COVID. It really kicked in and I live by it. Mm-hmm. If you're coming in my space to mess up my happiness or my peace, I'm not having it around. Nothing will come in my space that will mess up my happiness and peace. It doesn't mean that things can't be upsetting or I don't have challenges.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, though, that if it disturbs my soul, my spirit,
yes,
no matter how good it is, it's got to go.
Got to go. Yeah. I love that.
That's why I live by.
Yeah.
And I listen to that. I listen to that. It may take maybe 1 or 2 times, but there's no third time.
Okay.
If I listen to it and I feel it and I know it, it's got to go.
Yeah. That's really good. I think that's a good gem that you've just left there. So I think that's really important. So thank you so much, Nicola. Thank you for sharing with us, sharing your lived experiences and how you feel. I really appreciate it. It's been a wonderful chat. Can you tell everybody where to find you?
Yes. So if they go to all the W's, FP, F for Freddie, P for Peter, comms, that's comms.co.uk. Everything is there. And Ebony, can I just share that because we're 16 years this year, we're doing a lot of things. Yeah. But by the time people listen to this, we'll be probably 17 years or when people listen in the archives. Yeah. But there's a playlist. It's called FP Comms 16 years. So you can listen to all the tracks that we liked in our 16 years of being in businesses. Things that, like Destiny's Child, So Good, when people used to say, you're not going to make it, it's on there.
Yeah.
To ABBA, Money, 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 it's on there.
I like it. I like that. So where can I find that?
So it's on Spotify. And again, if you go to the website, there's a link on there and it will just take you straight through to the Spotify and you can listen to it or, click and follow it or whatever the case may be.
Cool. Excellent. Well, there you go. You heard her. Go and check out the FP Comms 16 years song celebration. So I think that's really cool. Happy birthday to you guys as well for your 16th year.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you again for taking your time to share with us. As always, I will be back soon with some more wonderful people from the world of comms. So stay tuned and thanks for listening. Bye.